Right, I'm here with Graham Davey from Grey For Now Games, and we're here at Sarissa headquarters, which kind of connects with you a little bit.
Yes, Sarissa work in partnership with Grey For Now quite extensively. They put together all the products for me and do all the dispatch, send out all the parcels to customers. And I've always used their terrain extensively in all my games. So yeah, we work kind of hand in hand.
Yes, and we've been doing some cool setups with your new figures today, but if there's a bit of sound disturbance in the background, that's because they're currently cutting more terrain, so apologies if you can hear that. But yeah, what we're really here today to talk about is your new 0200 Hours set.
Yep.
So do you want to give us a bit of an overview about what that's all going on?
Sure. So yeah, so the new set's called 0200 Hours Desert Raid. And this is the first time we've moved away from Western Europe and into the deserts of North Africa. So this is kind of inspired in part, you might have seen, there's a recently new show on Netflix called SAS Rogue Heroes, which focuses all about this theatre, talking about the SAS working in the deserts. And this was right in the very kind of formative time for the SAS and the guys who essentially invented it, and working together with a unit called the LRDG, which is the Long Range Desert Group, who were specialists in finding their way across hundreds of miles through the desert to launch raids and ambushes far behind German lines. And those two units work really closely together. So that's what's featured in the new book.
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect fodder for taking your game to somewhere new, but vehicles aren't really involved in the games though. It's more about the SAS once they've got to their location and they're making the attacks.
Yes. So there's a few rules in there for the LRDG, having got them there faster, more efficiently. So you can have a LRDG transport, which allows you to get all your remaining guys onto the board at the end of turn one if they haven't managed to get there in time. So that we include that feature of them being kind of a bit more efficient in getting on site.
Yes, and there are some other special rules that you've added in. You always like to add one kind of tweak that brings something big and extra to the games, and it seems like you've done that with this one as well.
Yeah. So we've added weather. Obviously, that's a key thing for the desert, so we wanted to include the chance of fighting a game in the middle of a dust storm. Obviously, it was actually freezing cold at night in the desert, even though it was baking hot during the day. Still kind of clouds and mist, because often the targets of the raids were actually on the coast. So there was sea mist and stuff as well, factoring in. So how we've worked this, it kind of works in with the event cards. So at the beginning of the game, you draw one card which dictates the weather at the start of the battle. But you also draw another card which is going to get shuffled into the event deck. So at some point, probably the weather's going to change to something else. And then that keys in with some of the abilities of the other troops that we've included. So if you include LRDG troops in your actual force, they're a bit more acclimatized to the weather, so they have a chance to not worry about those negative effects. Equally, there's veteran cards, so if you've checked the weather forecast, you can actually affect maybe throw one of those cards back and draw another one if it doesn't suit you. So you might find that things like a sandstorm might be quite useful for the attackers, because it will mask their advance harder to spot.
Sure, yeah. No, that sounds really cool. And you've hinted that there's different troops as well, and you've also got some new characters and some new figures as well with this stuff. Yeah,
so we've done something a bit new with the figures in this box. So we've partnered with Artisan Designs. So all the figures are from them. Most are from their existing range. They've got a fantastic range of World War II stuff, and particularly in this desert theatre. And they've also sculpted some brand new figures specifically for this set. So we've got a sentry with a guard dog in the kind of the DAC, the Africa Corps uniform. We've also got a Luftwaffe pilot who makes a great kind of objective target. He's got quite good stats, but it kind of counts as 2 enemies killed if you kill him.
Ah, right, because you've already got an allied pilot in the range as well,
Yes,
right?
yeah, we have, yeah. And the third new model is called the Ghost. So he's an SAS figure in desert garb who's particularly good at taking out people with his combat knife, kind of, so he can real kind of silent, stealthy attacks.
Cool. Are there any other kind of heavily modifying rules for the troops? Obviously, they all look different and they're in different fatigues and stuff, but what other ways do they vary to the existing combatants?
Well, so for the Germans, you can generally, the basic sentries, you still use just the standard rules. So you essentially just take the recruitment cards from the main set. The same if you just want to use these guys as normal SAS. So there's you can bring in the LRDG, as I said, who are not quite as fighty as the SAS, but a bit better at handling the weather. If your commander is LRDG, then he gets the transport for free. If you bring the sergeant along, he's the one who's checked the weather and so they're all geared into making the best use of the weather and making it work to their advantage. And then for the Germans, we've introduced DAC seasoned troops. So the idea with these is they're not at the same level as the SAS, but they're a bit better than your average sentry. So they're stationed nearby, perhaps. They hear the commotion when the alarm goes off, and they rush over to help.
Right. Are they like an instant kind of reinforcement thing then that you can
they don't come on any quicker.
Right.
But they do have to start in reserve.
Okay, cool. And you've also got one slightly like out of the ordinary extra that you've thrown in there, a sort of unusual pick, but quite appropriate.
The Artisan had this lovely figure of Rommel in their range. So I decided I had to include him because he's got a classic image of that theatre. So I imagine he's doing a field visit, just checking out everything's in place in this particular location that happens to be getting raided at the time. Again, he has the same rule where he counts as 2 guys if he's taken out. So clearly he's a valuable target. Yeah. So you can use him as your commander if you want. If you do that, then he actually gets to choose 3 event cards right at the beginning of the game. You literally look through the deck and pick the ones you want. So he's the master tactician.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
And he just makes a nice German commander.
Sure.
If you don't want to actually use him as Rommel, that's fine.
Is that maybe a sign of where things might go ahead, or is that was a one-off that just happened to all come together?
It worked fine. I certainly have no qualms about including the odd special character in that way.
Cool. So as well as the main expansion set, you've also got some extra groups of figures coming out?
Yeah, so to support this, and we'll bundle these all together if people just want to buy everything. There's reinforcements for the LRDG, which you can use as SAS if you want. 2 sets of reinforcements for the Germans, including another one of the dog if you like that model, because it's useful to have a few guard dogs roaming around, and a little set of casualties, so dead Africa Corps guys are basically.
Cool. All right, so that all sounds really, really fun, but when can people get their hands on this and start playing in the desert then? Okay,
so we are intending to put this on to pre-order in August, so that might be about now, and like to reach people certainly by September, maybe even a bit sooner.
This video has been brought to you by WiPrime, Wargames Illustrated magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WiPrime by following these links.